YouTube world. Let me put my seatbelt on so you don't get annoyed by the constant ringing. It's my car manufacturer protecting me from myself, and I don't want to subject you to that. So I just put my seatbelt on. Just wanted to give you another installment here of Anarcho Highlander. Share my thoughts with you on my way to work this morning, on the way to my new office, which is it's about a half hour from my house, as opposed to Brooklyn, which is like an hour, anywhere between an hour and a half and 2.5 hours with traffic. And now it's gone down to a half hour, which is nice because I'm getting some of my life back. I'm liking that. Yeah, just on my way to work, and figured I'd share some thoughts with y'all. So I've been thinking a lot since the last time I made a video. I'm going to post this and see if there's any comments that come back. Please feel free to comment, like, subscribe. So I'll just get right into it. I just this morning I surfing around the net and I found a couple things. I heard that the UN is actually making threats at Trump if he doesn't take the federal officers and organizations out of Portland. They're gonna do something. I don't know what they're gonna do. It sounds to me though like what they would do if Trump doesn't comply is maybe try to install some blue helmets in there or something. I don't know. But this is the kind of the thing that I was worried about from the beginning with this whole defund the police thing, with these protests after the George Floyd event. Don't even know if that was true or not. Still trying to figure that out. There's a lot of strange things about it, and just do your own research and develop your own opinion on that. But my own opinion is that I don't know exactly what happened, but it looks like it could have been a false flag for sure, in order to incite all that we've seen in the various cities, including Portland, which is now seems to be a stronghold for the communists, and they seem to be working with the UN now to maybe install, like I said, some blue helmets in there. And this is the kind of thing I was worried about in the beginning. So yeah, we're going to defund the police, but my question was, if you defund the police, what are you going to replace the local police with? Now there's all kinds of problems with local police, and in the municipalities and in the counties and at the state level. And then you have federal agencies as well. They're enforcing unjust laws, which is basically tyranny. But the question is what do you install the local police with if you defund them? And it looks like in Portland, at least, what may come to take place is that UN forces may be installed in Portland to protect the protesters' rights to do what they're doing there. And if you want to know about what they're doing, again, just do your research, and you'll find out about what they're doing. I'm not going to comment too much on that, except for the fact that if they install UN forces in Portland, where does it end? Are there other strongholds where the communists are planning on taking over cities and then working with the UN to install, again, UN forces in those cities to allow those communist activists to do what they're doing without any repercussions? I'm not crazy about federal forces coming into end what's going on in these cities, but I'm also not crazy about world police organizations coming in as well. I'd rather just defund the police and then let private citizens and private companies decide how they're going to protect and secure the private property in their vicinities, in their local spheres of influence, and do away with the unjust laws so that people aren't getting arrested and harassed for no reason. They're just traveling on the road, or they have some kind of contraband that's on the black market in their vehicle or on their persons or whatever, and then getting which shouldn't be contraband at all. Things concerning the drug war, and we know that that's a farce, just like all of the other wars, the war on poverty and the war on terrorism, and the war on COVID-19. Now it's the war on the local police, and we're going to use that to install UN forces, by the way, in these cities where communists are calling to defund the police and install some blue helmets in there. So how many cities is that going to happen in, and at what point does it become the new world order, where we have world government, these cities becoming a stronghold or a foothold for the one world government to take shape and take form in the United States? That's my concern with that whole situation. The UN is not really concerned about the rights of anybody. What they're concerned about is more control and more influence over the world. And you had the League of Nations during World War I, or just after World War I, and the World War I was supposed to be the war that ended all wars, but since the League of Nations didn't take hold, then because not all the countries signed on, and they didn't have enough support to form the League of Nations, and it failed, then the interest brought about World War II, so that they could have the same thing basically, but then they just renamed it the United Nations, and this time it took hold, right? And it's all incrementalism, it's all intergenerational interest over time, using incrementalism to take control of the world. And we see now that the UN is poking its nose into the affairs of the United States, and incrementally it could be very well moving in to govern the United States. And like I said, when I first saw the defund the police movement, that was the first thing that came to my mind. Who are you going to replace these police forces with? We knew it wasn't going to be just defund the police and leave a vacuum there. Of course, somebody's got to fill that in. And who's going to fill it in? The blue helmets. So I'm interested in that, and I'm watching that to see how it plays out. The last thing in the world we want is, a world governing body to be sending troops into our cities to clash with our federal organizations over what's happening locally in a city. That's what a mess that would turn out to be. But I'm wondering how that's all going to play out. In other news, I was watching the Dollar Vigilante. He's one of the few people that put out podcasts on a normal basis currently on current events, and he's come across with a bunch of evidence that it's been reported that all the places where COVID-19 supposedly has had the greatest numbers as far as people really having respiratory problems and dying of respiratory problems and things like that, who have pre-existing conditions is in areas where 5G has been installed and has gone live. I don't really know too much about 5G. I've watched a couple lectures on it and things like that. Heard some buzz here and there about it possibly being bad for your health. I know a lot of other people have done research and have told me, whatever you do, don't get into 5G because it's bad for your health. When you first hear these things, you say, it sounds kind of crazy, but then when you think about it more and you listen to more people who know more about it than you do talk about it, it starts to become, well, maybe this is something to be concerned about. And that's pretty much where I'm at right now is, what if the whole 5G thing going live in these various cities is what's been the cause of all these upper respiratory or these respiratory problems where people, get sick and die with flu-like symptoms, respiratory problems, basically. And so I'm just wondering how that's all going to play out too. And I'm wondering how long we're going to have to deal with this whole COVID-19 thing. Personally, I'm just trying to live my life normally. I'm trying to avoid places where I have to wear a face mask. There's very limited times when I absolutely submit to having to do it because I got to get groceries for my family, or I got to work or whatever. I have to fly, I have to travel or work because I go on site to radiation oncology departments and hospitals all over the country, and they have different requirements wherever you go, and especially when you're in the airports or you're on the airplane, you got to wear a mask. I try to limit my exposure to my own toxins that I'm exhaling out of my body, and having to breathe them back in again by wearing a mask, so that I don't get myself sick. Even when I'm in the grocery store, you have to say, no entrance without a mask. Okay, so I put the mask on, I just put it on my chin. And you know what? It's all about compliance. Because when I put that mask on my chin, nobody really bothers me. I never really get, I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that somebody said to me, sir, can you please pull your mask up pull your mask up. And then even then, I just take it, it's usually on my chin, below my mouth. I just take it, I put it up my mouth, and then my nose is out there, and I just breathe through my nose. But it's just, it's definitely a compliance thing. So it's not really about your health, it's about compliance. It's not really serving any good to anybody for anything. Even if you read up on what the CDC says and the WHO says about masks, they tell you that they're ineffective. And even if you read the boxes that the masks come in, what they say on the labels, they say this does not protect against COVID-19. It's not effective, and this does not protect you from viruses like COVID-19. And and maybe in some cases, it is effective. But if you look at the way everybody is out there, everybody's wearing different stuff. Some people are wearing bandanas, some people are wearing cloth masks that are just basically regular cloth with some straps on them, or there's the medical mask that people are wearing, or the N95, or some people even get more, serious, and they're wearing the canister mask that got the cartridges in them and stuff like that. And all those things work differently in different environments, and some just protect. Most of the ones that protect just protect, even if you get like the N95, it just protects the person who's wearing it. And that's even if nothing gets by from behind the mask where it makes contact with your face. And so you're still at risk. And the people around you are still at risk too if they're not wearing something that's as good as an N95. Because the N95 assumes that the environment that you're in is contaminated. It just protects the air coming in through the little valve. It protects that, it filters that air that's coming in, but then when you breathe out, it's breathing out whatever's in your lungs, and that's going out into the atmosphere. And, you know, this just makes no sense, because even when they do the test, for the COVID-19, they put the swab up. What do? They say it's uncomfortable. They put it all the way up your nose or whatever it is, so they touch your brain practically. Now, if they got to go all the way up there to get a test that, again, by the way, brings a lot of false positives and false negatives and all this stuff, and people have sent in swabs that haven't even been used and have tested positive for COVID-19. There's people that have, there's all kinds of things that have happened where there's false positives and things like this. So, and if they got to put it all the way up into your nose to get the positive test supposedly, or get a good sample, why is it that they have to do that if this thing is airborne and the mask is gonna supposedly protect you from it? The mask doesn't even come into play when you consider the test, because if it was that dangerous, all they would have to do is swipe around the rim of your nostril, the rim of your mouth. They could get a sample off of your spit, right? Because your spit, supposedly, these water droplets are supposed to be in the air, and that's what the mask is protecting you from. So, this is just a bunch of nonsense with the mask wearing, and I try to avoid it as much as possible, because I know it's not about my health. It's about compliance and control. Just like the whole, UN coming in and telling Donald Trump, what to do regarding the federal forces or federal agents in Portland, right? Telling us, they're telling him to, get the federal agents out of Portland, or else, I don't know, or else what? It's all about compliance. UN wants the U.S. to comply with what the UN is saying to do in regards to these communists taking over these cities, and that's about control. It's even about control with Trump coming in with his federal forces. It's it's just, this is ridiculous. It's like controlled opposition, basically. You're creating all this drama, problem, reaction, solution. So you have the problem, which is you have these cities that are falling apart because of these protesters. Then you have the reaction, which is, Trump coming in with federal forces, and they're saying that, they're kidnapping people in vans and stuff like that. And I don't know how true all that is. I don't know if these people go through due processes and are arrested with their Miranda rights and everything or not. But obviously, this has caught the attention of the UN, and they have the solution. The solution is, for the UN to be entangled in the United States, and for the purposes of control. It's all about control. It's all about control under a worldwide grid, a world government, one world religion, one world currency, digital dollar, and it's getting to the point where there's going to be no place safe to go, nowhere to run, and you're going to have to comply with what the establishment wants you to do regarding your money, your thinking, the way you think, your religion, your morality, and the way you're governed, and what you will comply with when you're governed by the one world government. And if you don't comply, then you don't get to participate in anything in society. That means you don't have access to work and have fruit from your labor. You don't have access to food because you can't buy it, or even if you can, you don't have a good you don't have a good social credit, or social standing, so you can't buy anything even if you do have the money. So then you're gonna, if you decide you're gonna be offline and you're not gonna be part of the matrix, then everything you do has got to be black market, and everything you do is illegal, and you can be arrested and detained anytime for that. And that's the kind of world that we're going to be living in, a big control grid. And there's a lot of people that have been saying it for years, and it just keeps incrementally going in that same direction. And they've been telling us, and now I'm telling you, with all the things that I've read and I've heard and I've watched, all the documentaries and everything, this is coming to a head, it looks like, pretty fast. And the only thing that you can do is do the best you can to unplug from the system, to get out of the petrodollar and get into cryptocurrency, get into silver, or if you can afford it, get into gold. Get into Bitcoin if you can afford it, or get into some of the lower denominations of cryptocurrency that are going to explode, of course, because they keep printing money. Trump is going to do another stimulus. We're going to be getting, checks every month for so many $1,000s or whatever, depending upon, what your family demographic is. And the printing presses are just going to roll and roll and roll, and inflation's going to go through the roof. So it's best to get out of the dollar and get into those currencies that can't be molested by the Federal Reserve. Get your kids out of the school system, homeschool them, private school them if you can afford it, or if or maybe you just decide to go do homeschooling because you just want to raise your kids instead of having somebody else raise them, and you nurture them and you teach them, and you have your own means to get them, thinking in the right way that is against this system. Get out of the medical industrial complex. Stay away from the doctor at all costs, unless you have to get a diagnosis. And if you get a diagnosis, then self-treat. Stay out of the pharmaceutical, medical industrial complex. Stay away from the vaccinations. Who knows what they're doing with that stuff? We have no clue what the consequences of these vaccinations are. There's no long-term studies, no double-blind studies, whatever they call them. Stuff is just not being tested. Stay away from the 5G. Stay away from the, try to stay out of the legal system. Just try to stay out of trouble, and then know how to defend yourself if you can. Don't just fold like a cheap camera and, do whatever they're asking you to. When you get in trouble with the law, just, battle it out in court and know what your rights are, and don't just fold like a cheap camera. I mean, learn how to grow your own food. Make sure you can defend yourself by getting, guns and ammo. You can get some storable food, and hopefully the storable food will bridge the gap between when everything collapses and when you figure out how to grow food out of the ground to provide for yourself. Or you can establish some kind of networking with some kind of black market network to get your food. I mean, if you have the means, learn animal husbandry and how to raise animals and slaughter them and get benefit from the food that they can provide. It's just getting out of the system. I'm trying to do it slowly. The next move for me is going to be cryptocurrency and more silver. I already have silver. I'm going to purchase more. I'm definitely going to be purchasing some cryptocurrency. Right now I'm just driving this little go-kart. It's a little 4-cylinder front-wheel drive car, but I'm going to invest in a 4-wheel drive pickup truck. So I have something that's a little bit more robust in the event that I need something that's a little bit more robust. I'm going to be doing some modifications to my home, so it'll be suitable just in case those services are not available anymore. I would really like to get solar panels on my house that would work for me, but I mean, the location that I'm in, there's a lot of trees, and it'd be probably pretty difficult for me to do that. But there's a lot of programs out there, and a lot of them just don't seem to fit or work out for me. But alternative source of power, getting off the power grid. I mean, I have a generator, but it's only going to get me so far. If it collapses, how am I going to get gas? So I have to think of ways for alternative power, and just something as simple as using different means to communicate with other people on social network. I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, and these are obviously not very good means because they get shadow blocked, and there's problems with them. So and they can turn these things off at any time. But if it's something on the blockchain, then you don't have to worry about it necessarily being controlled by the government. It's more controlled by the people. It's more privatized. So there's things like Library and BitChute that are not much more friendly to alternative narratives. There's other social networking sites that I'm starting to look into, but I haven't really done a lot of research. But I want to get out of Facebook. I want to get out of YouTube. I have a YouTube account. I'm paying money to YouTube, and they're censoring all the people that I listen to and all the information that I want to get. So why should I be supporting them? I should be pulling the plug on them. That's something that I'm going to do too. So, yeah. So another thing that's been on my mind too is my whole worship situation. I'm professing Christian. I love the Lord Jesus Christ. I believe that because of what he did upon a cross, that 2,000 years ago, that he's made atonement for my sins, that I'm a sinner, I'm under the wrath of God apart from his grace in Jesus Christ. And I want to worship God out of gratitude for what he's done for me. And I feel like I need to be part of a church. And I was part of a church for a very long time, and I think it was a good church. But when this whole COVID-19 thing hit, they just totally folded and complied to what they were being told to do. And so with that happening, we've just been watching worship from home. Now they're requiring a mask, when you come into worship. And my wife has got a problem with masks. It's a psychosomatic thing. She suffered some trauma and PTSD when she was younger, and for her to have a mask on, it throws her into a panic attack. And I don't want to make her go to church and have to deal with that. I don't even want to wear a mask myself in church. I want to be able to sing hymns freely without a mask over my face muffling me. I want to be able to breathe freely when I worship in church. And I just, it's been hard for me because I love my church so much. And then, I love the brethren there and everything, but then, there's this requirement where I've got to wear a mask when I go to worship. And it's just, to me, I don't even want to go. It's so disheartening. I feel like, my friend told me this, and I've kind of embraced it too. He says he feels like he's contributing to a lie. He's contributing to a lie because, this is all a lie that we got to wear a mask. And I feel the same way. Why, if I love my neighbor, how am I gonna tell them that they got to wear a mask? How am I going to tell them that they got to wear a mask when they worship? How can I love my neighbor that way? When I'm contributing to a lie, I should be telling them to avoid this deception and to not wear a mask. So it's all a very disheartening thing for me. That's something that I'm dealing with. Just trying to find a good church to get plugged into that believes in the Lord Jesus Christ and his sovereignty over all the churches. His sovereignty, that we got to obey him rather than obey men in government, especially unjust governments. That doesn't abuse passages like Romans 13 and the passages in 2 Peter that, a lot of pastors will take and use that as, there's no line. There's no line for the government to cross. If the government has power, God has given them that power, and they can just have their way with us. The government can have their way with us, and we should never resist. We should never do anything but obey the government, no matter what they're asking us to do. And that's what it feels like. I have yet to hear a sermon from any local church here in New Jersey where they will talk about the line that is drawn in the sand, that you say, okay, I go this far and I don't go any further. They keep it very general. They'll say, as long as the government's not asking you to sin, then you need to do it. Rather than giving some practical instruction to train our consciences by the Word of God, so that we can make the decision for ourselves, what we decide what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. I have a major dilemma when it comes to paying taxes, federal taxes that go towards meaningless bloodshed, whether it be abortion or it be unjust wars. How am I going to, here it is, this is blood money that I'm giving to the government for them to carry out this bloodshed. I feel like there's blood on my hands. But yet at the same time, if I try not paying my taxes, what's going to happen? They're going to come to my house and they're going to arrest me. They're going to take me away from my family. And then my family's left to fend for themselves. Now, how does that solve anything? So I don't have any good guidance or instruction from my church, my pastors, my elders, as to how to handle this. There's no instruction on it. There's absolutely no instruction on it. That's what I'm looking for, but I can't find a good church that does that. So these are some of the things that are on my mind right now. I don't know what's going on all your minds, what you're thinking about, what's bothering you, what kind of challenges the world is presenting to you right now with all of the restrictions and all of the things coming along from the federal government, the state government, and the world government, and even your local municipalities, who, as you beat it on up the line from the lowest forms of government to the highest forms of government, the highest form is always trying to impose on the lowest form of government, and they do it through, funding and things like this, and sometimes it'll be by force. Usually in the United States, it has to do with funding. If you don't do this or you don't do that, you'll lose the funding. So, that's where I'm at right now. Please feel free to comment, like, dislike, subscribe, call me a jerk, crazy, conspiracy theorist, whatever you like. But that's what's on my mind. I'm just documenting it on video, and look forward to seeing what you have to say, and then where I am a year from now and what I'm saying then versus what I said today. All right, have a great day, guys. I hope you get out and do something productive. You're able to work with your hands and your mind and produce something and get some fruit from your labor, and may God bless your efforts. Have a great day.